Aloha, beautiful adventurers. How are we today? Welcome to Elevate Thursdays. Today we're talking about how to cultivate drive and motivation in your business. So I don't know about you, but I struggle sometimes with having the drive or motivation in my business. And I use these three simple techniques to really get me back on board because, you know, our consistency as entrepreneurs is really important. And you'll hear this all the time. Being consistent, like with showing up for your business, is how you create your success. So motivation and drive is something that a lot of people talk about in order to get you going, to get you to show up. Now, there's a little thing about this. We're not really going to talk about motivation and drive. And the reason why is because motivation or drive is really fickle. And what I mean by that is that it wanes, it goes up and down. Okay, so you will know this as an entrepreneur. So to work on like your motivation and drive, if you were to only work based off of that thing, it's really actually hard to keep up because our motivation and drive go up and down. Like some days, some weeks, some months, we feel so motivated. This often happens like at the start of the year, right? We've got all these big goals, we're feeling refreshed and we're like all in. And then the rest of the year happens and maybe some things distract us, maybe some hard stuff happens, and then we feel our motivation and drive start to fall, okay? And it's usually at this point where less experienced entrepreneur will drop off the bandwagon, and not even less experienced, that's terrible, because I know I've been in this business for eight years, it's coming up to more, and I know that I have those drops in motivation and drive. And so equally as I'm talking to you about them, I'm being reminded about what I need to do to make sure that I am not just relying on motivation and drive, although we are going to talk about how to cultivate more of that, okay? So aloha to those on Instagram. Hi, beautiful Joy on Instagram. Aloha to those who are watching on Facebook. Drop me a hello so I know that you're here. Good morning, Facebook user. I'm not sure who you are, but let me know. So we're talking about how to cultivate drive and motivation in your business so you can show up, so that you can show up really consistently for your people and for yourself. Yeah. And consistency, showing up all the time, not all the time, but consistency is really the key to success. Yeah. It's the key to your longevity in your business. Hi, Stephanie. Beautiful for you to join me. Aloha. Thank you. So I was just saying that motivational drive is actually really fickle. So we don't want to hedge all our bets on just like using our motivation or drive to show up in our business, because it comes and goes, right? So hands up if this has happened to you. And this has actually happened to me in the last like month or two, right? Which is why I'm talking about it, because I'm like, I've just experienced this and this is what is getting me back on board. So we don't really want to just rely on motivation and drive to make us show up in our business, because it, like, sometimes it's really awesome and sometimes we're feeling so into it, and then sometimes we have zero of that stuff. And if we were to only rely on motivation or drive to show up for our business, we would just be like, there would be times when we showed up really well and there'd be times that we didn't show up at all. Now, if we talk about consistency as being an indicator of your success, this is a pretty bad way of trying to create consistency in your business, yeah? If you just rely on motivation and drive to tell you when to show up, it's not going to go very well for you, okay? So hi, beautiful Marlies on Instagram. Aloha to those watching on Facebook. Drop me comments as we go along, because I love to hear what is dropping in for you. And today we're talking about how to cultivate drive and motivation. But the first thing I want to really point out to you is that we don't want to rely on motivation or drive to be the reason why we show up in our business, right? Because it comes and goes. It's really annoying because, you know, if you're like me, it'd be so nice to feel motivated and driven all the time, right? I get a lot done, but we don't want to just rely on this feeling. So feelings are fickle, motivation and drive are part of that feeling group. We don't want to rely just on those feelings in order for us to show up and do our magic in our online space. Let me know if you have questions as we go along. Let me know what is dropping in for you. Hi to those on Facebook. Aloha for those on Instagram. So if we're not going to focus on motivation and drive in order to show up, what do we need to focus on instead? We need to focus on something bigger than motivational drive. And it's not only focusing on something bigger, we need to focus on things that we can control. Okay? So those are the things, I'm going to give you 3 things that really help you to cultivate more drive and motivation, but you're not relying on motivation or drive to turn up in your business. Yeah. So we need to focus on something bigger than motivational drive, and we need to focus on things that we actually can control. Okay. As we talked about just before, motivation and drive is pretty hard to control. However, you can cultivate it. There is a difference. So hello to Facebook. Hello to those watching the replay. Hi to those on Instagram watching the replay as well. So one of the ways that we can, actually, before we hop into the ways, I'd love to know, have you had waning drive and motivation in your business before? Drop me a comment. You can just say yes. You're in good company because I have too. And what have you tried to get you back on board so that you're feeling really motivated and driven in your business? Like, what have you done before? I'm going to give you a moment just to pop in some ideas into the comment box. And then I'm going to give you 3 ideas that work for me, okay? Because there's probably more than that, but these are the main 3 that really work for me. Yeah. Yes, we have felt, Marlies on Instagram is saying, yes, she has felt the drop in drive and motivation in her business before. I certainly have. Absolutely. So let me know on Facebook if you have too. There's no shame in it. We all do this, right? And this is why I just think that folk only showing up when you are motivated or driven is like a recipe for failure. Yeah. Because it just is it's so fickle. Okay. And there's so many factors that really affect this motivational drive. Yeah. So hi to those on Facebook, aloha to those on Instagram. Today we're looking at how to cultivate drive and motivation. And the first thing I dropped was that don't focus on motivation and drive to be the reason why you turn up. Like, we got to focus on something that is bigger than motivation or drive. That is something that is more within our control, because motivation or drive is really fickle. Yeah. So what have you tried before to really get that drive going, that motivation, to cultivate that again? Yeah. Marlies says on Instagram, meditation or doing something fun to bring balance. Yeah, right. So sometimes our drive or motivation drops because we're overwhelmed. Yeah. And we've been like head down and it's buried in the sand. Or we've lost the reason why we're doing our thing. Yeah. So doing something else completely not business related really helps us to find that balance, which Marlies is talking about. Do something fun, cultivate that energy that feels really, really good. Yeah. And this is also why I love that you've brought this up, Marlies. This is why what I call the real work in your business is not really the strategy. It's all about the energy. It's all about the inner work, because this part, us, we, our inner selves, is the part that we can really like take more control and ownership for. Yeah. So, so when I say something like focus bigger than motivation or drive, or focus on, I'm actually going to change that just quickly. Focus bigger and on things you can control. I have these handy little like cues on Facebook. You won't be able to see on Instagram, unfortunately. So I love this, Marlies, as well. She's also saying surrounding myself with motivating people. Yeah. So the company we keep really helps us to cultivate our motivation and drive. Yeah. And as I've talked about before, this is energy stuff. Yeah. And this is why I say this is energy stuff. And this is why I say that the real work in your business is all about what is happening on the inside, because these are usually the factors that you have the most control over. Okay. And so if we go inner and we look at the energetics, this is a really good start to how you can cultivate drive and motivation in your business. Yeah. Rather than just relying on it like as this weird thing that is sometimes there and sometimes not, which is really frustrating for showing up in your business. If you are showing up only when you feel motivated and driven, it's not going to get you very far. Yeah. Thank you for sharing, Marlies, on Instagram. Aloha for those joining me on Facebook. Drop me a few comments. You know that I love lots of interaction. The more that you give to me, the more I give to you. I'm a manifesting generator, so, I respond. Okay, so let's get into a few of the things that we can do that can help us cultivate drive and motivation, but we're not relying on it solely as its own entity, yeah? So we have to focus on something bigger, and we have to focus on things that we can control rather than focusing on motivation or drive in its essence by itself, yeah? And the first one that Marlies was I think she was getting to was this return to purpose. So why are you doing your business? What is the big why? What is your soul's purpose? Why are you here doing what you do in your business? And I want you to drop a comment for me now. If you're watching the replay or if you're watching live on Instagram or on Facebook, why are you here? What is your soul's purpose? Why are you doing your business? And you can let me know with 1 or 2 words or a sentence, and I'll give you a moment to do that because I realize there's some lag and you have to type. Yeah. So returning to our purpose is one way we can really cultivate drive and motivation. Yeah. Again, this is something you can control, and it is something that is bigger than motivational drive. Yeah. So when we return to our purpose, it's like, oh yeah, we get ourselves out of the woods. So sometimes when we're in business, it is this case of being bogged down. There's a lot of things to do. You're playing with so many hats as a business owner, right? You're the social media manager, you're the content creator, you're the facilitator, the guide, you're all of these things. And it can get you can start to lose the reason why you started your business in the first place. And I know that the reason why you started your business in the first place was because you had this huge purpose. You wanted to change the world. Yeah. You wanted to transform people's lives. And so when we return ourselves to purpose, and what I mean by that is simply reminding yourself of why you are here doing what you do. Yeah. When you do that, it's like that really fickle motivation and drive starts to bubble again. Can you see that? And I'd love to know what your purpose is, why you're doing your business. Drop me a comment. Yeah. Why do you do what you do? So I know when I do this, my purpose, the reason why I do my business, the big overarching soul's purpose of why I'm here is to create more peace and harmony in the world. I do not do this perfectly. And when I'm bogged down with all the things, I am not focused on that at all, right? And then it starts to become a little bit a little bit overwhelming. And I'm like, oh my God, I've got this to do, I've got this to do, I've got this to do. And then I'm like, my nervous system goes into overdrive and I'm like, and I want to check out. Yeah, motivation and drive is low. However, when I just take a moment to put my hand on my heart and take a big breath and go, why am I here? And I remind myself of my purpose. I'm here to inspire peace and harmony. The way that I do that is through business. The way that I do that through business is that I teach you how to become the most authentic version of yourself so you can show up easy online, so you can create offers that feel really amazing and fun for you, so that you can choose strategies that feel like they're meant for you and they're just so easy for you to show up on, so that you can be just so authentic through and through your business that it doesn't even feel like work anymore. Yeah. And I believe that when everyone can do that, when they can be true to themselves, that we then get to create more peace and harmony, because there's no way that you can be a non-joyful person when you're doing what you're meant to be doing. Yeah. And you're doing it in a way that is easeful and joyful. That's my view of it, right? So my big overarching soul's purpose is about creating peace and harmony. And so when I return to myself with that, and maybe it's just what you would like to do right now, is put your hand on your heart and think about, feel, talk in your head about your soul's purpose, or the reason why, the big reason that is driving your business. Yeah, that was the reason you set up your business. When you remind yourself of that, then it's like, why would I not turn up for my business? It's like that drive and motivation starts coming up again. It's like, oh yeah, let's do this. Yeah. Okay, let me catch up on some comments here. What have you dropped in? What is your soul's purpose? Marlies on Instagram says, my soul's purpose is to bring joy, happiness, and make people feel good on the inside. And then things are good on the outside, making the world a better place. I love that. We're on a similar mission. Yeah. So when I'm guessing that when Marlies or when any of you drop into your purpose, you start to feel calm. You start to feel like, oh, I could do this. And you start to feel the importance of why you are here on this earth. Yeah. And this in turn cultivates motivation and drive so that you can consistently show up in your business. Am I making sense? Let me know. Drop me a yes in the comments. Drop me a no if I'm not, and ask questions so that I can clarify anything that is coming up for you. Please also do this hashtag replay if you are watching the replay. I always come back and I answer any of your questions when you do watch the replay. So please don't feel like you've missed out if you didn't catch me live. Yes, mission possible, Marley says. It totally is, especially when there's several of us, not even just two of us, like loads of us who are going towards the same thing, yeah? We've got like collective energy behind that. So focus bigger than motivation. Focus bigger than drive. Focus on things you can control, yeah? So one of the ways that you can do that is return to your purpose. The second way that I love that helps me to cultivate drive and motivation or get that feeling back is to take action. So it sounds like, this is kind of one where you need to almost, for me, I need to like force myself out of bed. Like it feels like that. It's like, oh my God, I don't have any drive or motivation whatsoever. And I have to just go do something. And it's almost in the act of doing something that becomes an act of doing something else, and it's a roll-on effect. Okay, so take action. So if you've been stalling and you're feeling unmotivated or not driven to do a certain aspect of your business, one of the easiest ways that you can kickstart this is to do one thing. Okay, and what I mean by that is like literally one thing. So get rid of the to-do list. If you're suffering lack of drive and motivation because you're overwhelmed, get rid of your list and do one thing. Yeah, make it that simple. Do that one thing. And that one thing usually leads to then doing another one thing. And then that another one thing leads to another one thing. And so the act of taking action cultivates our drive and motivation. So it's in the action that we get to cultivate and renew our drive and motivation. Okay. So if it's gone to the point where you're like, I'm out, and you're just chilling and you've been chilling for a while and you're like, all right, I'm still feeling lack of drive and motivation and I haven't done a thing. I invite you to get rid of the huge list that may have come up and just do one thing. Yeah. And if I look at how to simplify this, and we're going slightly off tact, but it's important. When I look at the one action that you can take that would feel really good, tap in. So what I mean by tap in is sit with your soul for a moment and go, what is the one thing that I could do today that would make the biggest impact for me and my audience? And you get to sit with that question. And then just do that one action. That is it. And if you only do that one action, trust that it has been the most impactful action that you could have done that day. Yeah, and just leave it alone. Or you might find that by doing that one action, you get inspired and something else comes and you create that, and something else comes and you do that. Yeah. So it's in the action that you can cultivate more drive and motivation. And it's kind of, admittedly, like I'm talking from personal experience, admittedly for me, this is like a little bit hard because it does require literally me like getting out of the bed. And I mean that like it feels like I'm just like wanting to hide under the covers when I have no drive or motivation, right? And I literally have to throw the covers off and like haul myself out of bed, go and have a shower, turn up. Like it feels a little bit of a rigmarole, but when I do it and I do it again, it becomes easier. And then the drive and the motivation start to well up again. So let me know, comments, questions. What questions do you have? Let me catch up on some comments here on Instagram. Yes, take action, small steps, keeping it simple. Thanks for that tip. You're welcome, Marlies. I have had the list, and yes, it's so true, it can be overwhelming. Yes, so when you have a list, we're actually going to go into this a little bit more because it is part of the third tip I'm going to give you about cultivating drive and motivation. But when you have a list, like I always like to just put it down to 3 most important things. The 3 most important things that you're going to do for the week. Yeah. And then if you have a daily thing, it's like the 3 most important things to get done that day. And that's all. That's all you have to do. And as I said, the easiest way that you can ask yourself is ask your soul, ask spirit, what is the most impactful thing that I could do today for my people and myself? Yeah. And if you just get that one thing done, it's a big pat on the back for yourself. Yes. Plus congratulating myself on my act, compassion and self-love. Beautiful. Yes. And a walk in nature and exercise rejuvenates me. Wonderful. Okay, so the third thing that I do to cultivate drive and motivation when it's lacking a little bit for me is this: be disciplined. So it's rather not being disciplined, it's like creating more discipline in my life. Okay, now I used to have such a bad relationship with discipline because I used to feel like discipline was trying to hold me down and like trap me, right? But it's actually a very, I'm going to say this carefully, it's a very mature way of operating in the world. It's when we move from, if we look at archetypes, or archetypes, it's when we move from this child or teenage princess archetype into the queen archetype, the sovereign. It's that part of us that needs to make that transition in a way that doesn't feel like it's stifling, but it creates parameters which are helpful for you to show up for your business. Okay. So in business context, what this means in terms of creating discipline are things like having plans. Yeah. So planning out your content, or planning out your year, or planning out your goals, or planning when you're going to do launches. Those things are really helpful for us. And it's helpful for those of us who have a lot of feminine energy running around. Yeah. It's helpful because this particular part, action and the discipline part are very masculine energies, and they hold the container for us. The discipline holds the container for us so that our energies aren't just going everywhere. They're going really in a direction towards what it is that we want to create in our life. Yeah. So what is it that you want to create through your business? How can you help that happen? Is by creating discipline. Yeah. So having plans, and I like to say loose plans, right? I have flexible plans. Really helps for motivation and drive, because when you're not feeling so hot, when you're feeling a bit like, oh my gosh, I have to turn up again, what the fuck, that sort of thing, you can look at your plan and go, okay, I'm just going to do that thing. This really helps with the action taking, right? If you have a plan of an action, then you could go, all right, I'm just going to do that. And then, as I said before, once you take the action, usually that leads to another action. So having a plan is helpful for those times when motivation or drive is lacking and there's nothing, like inspiration is not coming to you. Yeah. So having a plan is for that reason. Yeah. Equally, routines are really helpful. Okay, so what I mean by routines is beyond, it might be business, but it's also personal life. Okay, so for me, like having a routine where I get up early, I do some exercise. Exercise or time for myself includes, it has to be about 90 minutes to 2 hours for me to feel like I've done something really for myself. So it's exercise, it's meditation, it's stretching, it's having a leisurely breakfast, and then coming into my business. And then I have a routine for my business, right? So it's like I do some journaling or some dumping of ideas because my head is usually like, right? And then I go and take some action. Okay. So part of creating discipline is routines, right? And I, of course, like to give myself a little wiggle room. So I call them flexible routines. Now, I know personally these work for me, right? And you get to take these with a grain of salt. You get to play with them. You get to play with whether plans work for you, loose plans that you can play with. You get to play with what kind of routines really cultivate that drive and motivation. Yeah. So Marlies is saying a walk in nature and exercise rejuvenates me. Maybe that's going to be part of her daily plan that she needs to have in place in order to create well in her business and her life. Yeah. So this isn't just about having routines or plans, routines in your business. This is about also having routines in your life that help to cultivate a healthy motivation and drive. Yeah. And part of this creating of discipline is also accountability. So for me, this works really well when I have some kind of like accountability. That discipline, it almost pulls me into discipline because I have to do it, right? I have to show up for this. So I have created this routine of coming here on Elevate Thursdays pretty much every Thursday. There's been some exceptions this year, but pretty much every single Thursday at 11 a.m. New Zealand time, I am here live on Elevate Thursdays. This is a routine that I have in my business. Yeah. And it has that accountability because I've told you guys I will be here every single Thursday at 11 o'clock New Zealand time, bringing you a topic that's going to help you to elevate your business. I have told you this. I have also told my VA, Joy, that I'm going to be doing this. And I have in her schedule of things to do to schedule this for me. And so it's almost like having this accountability with you, my clients and my audience, having this accountability with my VA to give her the things that she needs in order to do her job well, helps me to cultivate discipline, which then helps me to cultivate drive and motivation. Yeah. So creating discipline is like this step we need to step into. Yeah. It's a maturing, it's an evolution of who we are that then allows us to really cultivate drive and motivation in our business. Yeah. So accountability can work in several ways, right? A coach is really useful. A coach or a mentor or a group where you literally put down what you're going to do and someone goes, hey, have you done this? Yeah, that is important. And it's important because it's part of this creation of discipline. And the creation of discipline is one of the three things that really work for me in terms of cultivating more drive and motivation. And not even yet like cultivating. Sometimes it's literally like sparking back that motivation and drive. Because sometimes it's like I am dead. Like there is nothing there. I've got zero motivation and drive in my business. Yeah. And having these things in place help me to continue to show up. And then it's in that action, like we talked about before, it's in the taking of the action that I feel the drive and motivation again. Yeah. So let me have you any more questions? What questions are arising for you? Let me know. I'll give you a moment to pop anything into the comments if you have anything. So let's quickly go over this. Focus. Motivation is fickle. Motivation and drive is fickle. So we don't want to focus on that purely for showing up here. We need to focus on something that is bigger and on things that you can control. Yeah. And one of those things that you can do is return to your purpose. The second thing that you can do is take action. And the third thing that you can do is create discipline. Yeah. Through plans, routines, or accountability. Now, those are three things that really work for me. And I'd love to hear what other things work for you. Yeah. So all of these things cultivate motivation and drive. Yeah. They'll get you out of the pit. And the more that you do these things, return to your purpose, take action, create discipline. The more that you do these things, the more that you find your well of motivation and drive is full. Yeah. So you shouldn't hit rock bottom. Yeah. Okay. So are there questions that you have? Okay. Let me catch up on Instagram. Yes. Like this, creating of discipline. I think I can work more on routines and accountability. Okay. Great, Marlies. Yep. Try that out. Try it out for a month, 2 months, 3 months. See how it goes for you. Does it work for you? Yeah. Being accountable for what I have said I will do. Important. Yeah. Perfect. So comment below. What was your biggest takeaway from today's Elevate Thursday? And what are you going to do about it? So bringing you some accountability already, right? What was your biggest takeaway today and what are you going to do about it? And I'd love to, if you have any more questions that arise in the next week, because sometimes when we go away from these lives, we're like, oh my God, there's this thing. Just drop a comment back in this live. As I said, I get notifications on these. I always return and answer any questions that you have, whether you ask them now, later, 2 years later, I'm here for you. So lovelies, let's wrap up today's beautiful Elevate Thursdays. I am here every Thursday at 11 o'clock New Zealand time, bringing you a new topic about how to elevate your business. And I thank you for your time, for your energy, for your attention today, because I know that is really precious and I do not take it lightly. So thank you very much for joining me on Instagram, on Facebook, and on the replay. Thank you, Marlies. Thank you, Stephanie. I'm glad this was timely for you. Much love, and I will catch you next week. Bye for now. Mwah.